Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dudes and dudettes. We have a very special dude sports session. We have the Walsh Cavaliers head football coach. He looks like he's taken a few hits along the way in his playing career under Jim Tressel at Youngstown State. I believe he's got a couple rings to show for it. But coming in, leading the Walsh Cavaliers on this 2021 season, 3 games into it, John Fankhauser. How you doing, sir? The Funk.
Good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I have been hit quite a bit, but probably more as a head coach than I probably ever did as a player.
Are you the coach out there headbutting the guys with the helmets, like getting fired up?
No, I used to be that guy a little bit, get fired up and get them riled up. But anymore, I'm a little too old to sustain this concussion stuff. So I don't know. I got hit in the head way too much as a fullback way back in the day. So I try to limit my contact and any more. We didn't have concussions back then, so now we have them, so I could probably be out for too long if I did it.
So basically what you're saying is the last time you went for the headbutt with the bare head, it got a little couple stars flutter in there. And fullback in the 90s, man. The heads up football wasn't quite a thing back then, right? It was lower your head and put it in your chin.
Sort of. Yeah, heads up football and the new things that have come in with the tackling, that wasn't really a part of what we did, but it wasn't like we were unsafe. We talked about heads up, see what you hit, those type of things. But as a fullback, you try to lead with your forehead, and you want to kind of put them right between the right L on the helmet. If you got them there, you were going to win. And if you could get the helmet shock back when you hit them, you definitely are going to win. So that's what we always tried to do.
I think Owen Schmidt, great WVU fullback, he actually kept tally of how many helmets he snapped his senior year trying to break a record, and I think he ended up with 7.
Yeah,
you guys are different.
That's a pretty good tally, although I'll say this, they don't make helmets like they used to. The face masks used to bend a little bit and give a little bit, but now the helmets kind of crack at the buckles and things like that, and they're a lot safer now, by far, and a lot more comfortable as well. But it's that'd be a good tally to keep.
So fullback, that's like the brass, you're the muscle. So now that you're a coach, you went from fullback into coaching. Do you think that your style of coaching and your play calling, offensive and defensively, is a little bit of smash mouth football? Or have you kind of evolved out of that mindset a little bit?
Well, I think every coach has their personality. I think that they should be true to that personality as well. And my personality is probably a hardworking, grinded out type of person, and that's what I am. And if I tried to fake that, I think my players would see through that. So that's what I've tried to do. Try to be genuine and true to myself as my passionate characteristics that I have, as far as getting fired up and also getting emotional with our guys and letting them know that, how we handle those emotions and those things are good. But we got to keep them in check at times, which I didn't always do when I was a young player. And I learned to do that as I got older. But I would say that I have a fullback mentality in coaching for sure.
All right. But with fullbacks with the 4.3 GPA, right?
Yeah, that was a little higher than I got. You could add mine up twice and probably not get there.
C's to get degrees, right?
Yeah.
But not anymore. No, student athletes, we did not condone that activity. Learn from what we did. But I'm just saying I still got into grad school, but that's just my own. That's my own opinion.
I'll say this: I overachieved from what a lot of people told me I would do at some point. To be able to get a master's degree and do all the things I've done educationally, I probably surprised a lot of people back in Sugar Creek at some point.
Oh, the old creek. We have a Sugar Creek, Ohio reference, folks. It's official now. But you went to Youngstown State. What a great opportunity to play for one of the greatest coaches of all time in Jim Tressel. How did he shape you as a player and then also as a coach? Because you went from player to coach up at Youngstown State.
Yeah, that was a really unique experience. I'll say this: when I was going through the recruiting process, I had looked at Akron and Kent and OU and some other places, and I had just seen Youngstown State playing the national championship game in the 1AA ranks, and they won in 1991. And I thought, man, that place kind of looks cool. And my head coach at the time reached out to Youngstown and got me a visit. And I went up there and I really kind of fell in love with the place right out. It was one of those awe moments as far as walking on campus. But then, sitting and talking with Coach Tressel and all of his other coaches that he had a great staff at that point. A lot of those guys really helped form me as a coach, form me as a player as well. I wasn't a great player up there. I was a very marginal player, but they gave me opportunities. They gave me things that then put me in situations that I could succeed in. And that's one thing I've really tried to take from the playing side of it, is give players an opportunity to succeed in what they're good at. Don't put a square peg in a round hole. Those type of things. And then how he treated us, and always treated us with respect. But he always used positive examples and some negative examples to get his point across. And that's one of the things I've hopefully obviously taken as well, is when we need to make a change in something or have a new direction, he would always use an example for that. And that's one thing I've really tried to do as well. When I got, into the later stages of college, and he said, "Hey, I have an opportunity for you to coach." That was probably one of the more unique experiences that I probably can look back and ever have gained, because I was able to, he kept all of us assistants in, because at the 1AA level, he didn't have the staffs that the Division I's had at that point. So we all had a role, we all had a job to fill, and we were all in every staff meeting. And one staff meeting I can remember in particular is we're getting ready to play, or we're at the end of our season getting ready to go to the playoffs, and in a tie back in those days was still a possibility. And I remember we're getting ready to play, I believe it was University of Akron. And he said, if we go down and score at the end, do we go for the tie or do we go for the win? And a tie gets us in the playoffs guaranteed for the most part, based on what our record was. But he went out around the room to every coach, the offense coordinator, defense coordinator, all through the student coaches, which is what I was, and took a tally. Do you want to go for two? Do you want to go for the tie? And I was one of the last guys to vote. And I said, go for the win. And it ended up being swayed by one vote. So my vote really counted. And after that meeting, I'm sitting there thinking, wait a second, I'm a student coach. These guys have their lives depending on it. And I just swayed a vote based off of what I thought as a student coach, because I'm aggressive and want to go win. But he said, if we get down to that situation, we'll go for two. And I always thought about that everybody had a voice. Everybody had an important role in the team and what was going on in the coaching side of it. So I've really taken a lot of that as well.
So is that one of the moments where you realize, like, Jim Tressel's just a little bit different than most other coaches, or is there another story that you can think of in particular that just kind of really separated him from the rest of the group?
Well, boy, I could think of about 50 different stories that separated him.
Hey, it's Monday, man. I got nothing but time, so go ahead. I'll grab my coffee if you give me a minute.
Yep. Unfortunately, I have to get back to some work. I'm trying to figure out how to beat Ashland here this week. But
big game.
I'll say this: one of the other situations that I had, and this would probably separate Jim Tressel from a lot of people, and it probably would separate him from me as well. As I was coaching here at Walsh as a graduate assistant, and we didn't start school right away. Youngstown had started school after the bowl game. And I was traveling back to Walsh on, I believe it was a January 2nd, give or take, maybe January 3rd. And I had just heard that John Cooper had been let go at Ohio State. But I wanted to stop in. I had set up a meeting that I was going to stop in and see Coach Tress on my way back through into town, and set up a meeting with him. And as we're sitting there talking, and I was a GA and going into my second year, thinking, okay, now I want to try to make that move back into Division I. Is there a possibility? And we're sitting there talking about different options and different things that were out there. His phone rings. And he gets on his phone and talks a little bit and says, yes, I'm very interested, but I'm with a former player of mine. Can I call you back? And he hangs up the phone. And I said, hey, Coach, who was that? He goes, that was Ohio State calling to see if I'd be interested in the job. And I said, call him back. Call him back right now. I'll leave. But the fact that he was able to compartmentalize and say, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. There'll be time for everything to go. That was probably and looking back, an all-striking moment for me as not even a guy that's on his staff anymore, not even a guy that's at his university anymore, that he was able to give me the time that we had requested over top of his dream job, if you will, because as a player, we always knew there was a few jobs that he would leave for, and Ohio State was definitely one of them.
So you witnessed history. I mean, that's definitely, at the end of the day, you'd be like, I was there when Tressel got the call. That's really cool.
Yeah,
all right. Well, enough about Youngstown State. You're at Walsh now. You're a Cavalier. You've been there for what, 19 seasons now? This is your 19th season?
It's actually, I got here in 1998, so that would, they said there'd be no math today. So that would put me at what, 22, 23?
So 23 years. You were 19 years assistant there, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that was it. I knew there was a 19 in there. Sorry, folks. I did do some research here, not much, because I study as much for this as I did for my math test back in college. So you're there at Walsh now, a little bit of a rough start, but gosh, man, not an easy schedule, and it doesn't get any easier for you. You take on a 1-2 Ashland team this weekend, but both losses are against top 10 teams for them, and they put up a decent fight, but weren't in it at the end. But still, Ashland has had a very solid program over the years with some top-ranked teams. So how do you bounce back from where you guys are at and going forward for the rest of the year? Because it's not how you start, it's how you finish and how you progress. So what's your team's identity been, and are you happy with how that identity has progressed throughout the first few games of the year?
Well, I would think our identity is a tough, aggressive team, especially defensively. We're playing a lot of guys on defense, and we've done relatively pretty well defensively. I've been very happy with our performance defensively. I think the challenge in our world lies right now in our injuries and the things that we have going on our team. Coming out of the spring, we have some injuries that have lagged over, but also, gained some, as you do in every year, but it just seems like it's kind of mounting on us right now a little bit. So offensively, we need to really find ways to score points. Our defense has given us a chance in a number of games this year, and I was hopeful that we'd be a little bit better off record-wise than we are, but we are where we are, and we got to work on getting better and figuring out next man up a little bit, but also figuring out what we can do as coaches to help give our players chances to succeed. Ashland's a great team. They played Notre Dame, who is in the top 5, I believe, in the country, and then Ferris State, who is in the top 2 or 3, and lost both those games, and then played Quincy, a light opponent for us, in a crossover game as well last week, and put 63 on them. So they have a lot of challenges. They have some very good football players. They do a good job with their coaching staff on getting their kids into right situations, and we have to counter that and try to take them out of some of those situations if we can, and put some stress on them as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't get any easy. Like, everyone thinks like D2 football is not, it's just on such different level than D1. What would you say is like is it just a couple inches across the line, like a couple pounds? Like, what makes it's so competitive? I want you to like kind of paint a picture, everybody, how close the talent level is from D2 to D1.
Well, there's probably a lot of differences in D1, and most of it's budget and travel and all those things. The talent base is very similar in a lot of instances. And I guess probably the biggest difference is the number of players that Division I has. They have 6'5", 6'5", 6'5" in their top 3, where we have a 6'5", then we'll drop to 6'3", and then maybe a 6'2", 6'1", but also very good football players. So that's very similar. There's a lot of kids that get drafted out of our Division II ranks, and a lot of, we've had a lot of NFL teams come in and look at some of our guys and things like that. But I'd say the depth overall is the biggest difference. But we have in this new transfer portal era, there's a lot of kids that are playing down, a lot of kids that are, go to Division I, then end up, playing Division II, and they're very good players, and, maybe just got unhappy somewhere, or a situation happened, or got beat out, whatever. But they end up at our level, and there's a lot of things that are really good. And I'll use this example. There's a couple kids out of our league that were taken up to a Youngstown and taken up to Purdue and other things like that have gone and started at those programs in the Big Ten or in the Youngstown level and doing really well. So that tells you that they were good players in Division II, and they're also good players in Division I.
Yeah, and so the transfer portal. Let's talk recruiting for a minute. How has that helped or hurt you at this level here? Do you think that it's like you kind of sort of just hinted around at it, I think, when you're saying these D1 kids that go to the transfer portal and they think they're just going to go on to a bigger, better D1 program, it doesn't work out, then they're kind of like, oh my goodness, I need to kind of find a landing spot here. And then so are you finding some more top tier talent kind of shuffling down to D2, or are you guys losing, or is it just so cluttered and convoluted you don't even know how to make sense of it?
Well, it's very there's a lot of kids on the transfer portal. You know, when you start looking at it and saying, okay, is there kids that, you know, just taking the MAC, for instance, trying to figure out everybody that would want to transfer from an Akron, Kent, or wherever, there's probably anywhere from 100 to 150 of those kids that are available at different times. And the frustration I have with the transfer portal is it's given everybody a greener grass type of scenario, and it's not always like that. And you know, the Justin Fields of the world are the headlines in the media, but the other kids that end up transferring don't always end up graduating. I believe of all the kids that transferred last year that had the opportunity to graduate, only 30% of those kids ended up graduating. And
oh, wow. There's a stat we're not talking about.
Yeah. And here's another COVID thing that goes into it. You know, there was 3,000 kids, over 3,000 kids that were playing with degrees now. So they graduated from where they're at. COVID gave them the next year, and now they're moving on to another school, which that hurt us a little bit. We lost a young man that we thought was really pretty good. He ended up transferring up. The transferring up is probably the biggest part of this transfer portal thing that's going on.
Okay.
It used to be strictly, you know, you had to transfer down and not lose a year.
Right.
Now it's equal. You can go almost wherever you want and find a waiver or find something to get you eligible and play right away. It's kind of I guess the travel ball in the youth levels it's kind of that same mentality where you can play on this travel team one week and play on another travel team the next week. It's almost that mentality, which is frustrating because there's not as much loyalty to where and loyalty in your decision making with kids. You know, if something doesn't go right, they don't really want to say, hey, I'm going to fight it out and try to earn the job back. I'll just go somewhere else. Yep. And that's the biggest challenge that I think that kids need to fight through, because the grass is not always greener on the other side.
So are you able to use that pitch maybe as like a kid that's like, they call them a tweener, you know, like maybe getting some PWO offers D1, but they go D2, but now that they can transfer up, is that something like, come here, ball out and go wherever you need to go? Like, do you think are you doing it, or do you think other coaches are doing it, or both?
I think there's a little bit of both. Yeah, we're going to talk to kids about that, having opportunities and providing themselves opportunities to increase their productivity on the field and off the field. So that's something that's always in the recruiting game, especially now with the NIL, name, image, and likeness things that are going on. You know, I'm concerned as a college football coach what this is going to create. The haves and the have-nots possibly, but we'll see how it goes. And I think the NCAA will eventually come back in and manage it a little bit better than they have. They just kind of said, here we go with it, and let's see where we go, and then we'll fix it as we need. But there's definite advantages to having a lot of opportunities for kids than there are for other schools, and it's not exactly equal. But yeah, we try to use some of those things as much as we can to help us in recruiting. One thing I won't do, I will not lie to a kid. I'm not going to tell him he's going to do this and do that. It's always being very honest with kids, because I believe I'm dealing with that kid's next 4 to 5 years of his future and then beyond that, because making decisions or telling him something that's not true, and you get that kid, and then he comes in and finds out he's not it's not what coach said it was. I believe that's a disservice to the kid. It's also a disservice to that high school coach and that kid's family. So, but I'm honest with them, try to tell them exactly where we're at, what their opportunities are, and give them the chances to go from there.
So do you have any Belden Brick athletes on your team?
We don't have anybody right now, but
I thought the NIL, I thought maybe Belden Brick was just throwing some mortars up there at people like, hey, you need some, want to make a fire pit? You know, like, hey, you wear our shirt, we'll give you the white hat.
Yeah. Yeah. The white hat is the way to go. If you're going to go to Belden Brick, the white hat's the way to go.
Definitely the white hat's the way to go. So we've had a Sugar Creek and a Belden Brick reference in this interview. I just want that noted.
Did you work at Belden Brick at any point?
One summer after my freshman year for college work, and I was like, college doesn't sound that bad. They put me on the back end of the blender line. I'm like, this sucks. So yeah, I watched.
Well, I was a glutton for punishment because I must have done it a little bit more. I did it for 4, maybe 5 years. I got to think of how many years I did it.
Well, actually, my sophomore year was when like the housing 08-09 crash, and like that budget was completely wiped out. So I only had to suffer through it for 1 year. So then I took up bartending. There was a lot more girls in that world for me. So, all right, let's just fantasize. I am a 6'5", 285 Greek god of an athlete playing defensive end. I bring the hammer. What are you telling me to come to Walsh?
Well,
GPA is a 2.5.
I'm glad you put that in there because that'll affect your academic money. What we do is we're going to try to give our kids the right information based on, hey, here's where we project you athletically. Here's what we think you can do. Here's the characteristics that you provide. It's not just 6'5", 285 and bringing the hammer. It's what type of player are you? What type of guy are you when the things go down? Because I'll say this, I go to a high school football game almost every Friday night and sometimes 2, and our staff goes out to them. And what we're out there trying to do is we know those kids can play football. I want to see their character. And I want to find out when your team fumbles, how do you handle it? Whether you fumble or not, when your team gets scored on, how do you handle it? How do you handle it in the huddle? How do you handle it on the sideline? Those things are very, very important, more so today than they ever have been because the microscope is always on you. In today's world, the cell phone and the videos and all those things that you do that we didn't have to worry about socially are on you now. So you got to really be conscious of what type of character person you're bringing in here. And that's something we've been really cognizant of, especially in these last 3 years of my recruiting part of it and trying to bring in the right type of kid because those things really matter. How they handle themselves on campus is important. And what they're going to get at our campus versus a number of other campuses, they're going to get a great environment, a very unique environment in a smaller school, but a big environment around us. We have a lot of things around us at Walsh that help sell our campus. And our campus is really nice as well. But academically, we're going to be in the top 10% of colleges that can help kids get to where they want to go. Most of our kids aren't going to go on and play in the pros. We have had some guys that have done that, but most of our kids are going to go on and get into their professional ranks of their degree and what they want to do. And we can give them a great opportunity to do that with internships, with different things like that, to give him a great foothold on that next phase of their profession and trying to build that in the recruiting as well as the athletic side of it. I think those are important. Those are things that 18-year-olds don't always think about, but once they hear it, they're like, oh, well, that does make sense, coach, and moms and dads really understand it because they've been through it.
All right. Well, hey, man, I'm ready. I'm actually ready. Can I sign? I mean, you got one extra. You don't have any budget concerns. Just make a spot for me.
For sure. I got an opening right now for you.
Nice. Let's go.
Hey, if you've seen our injury report, I got a lot of openings for you.
Hey, I hate Ashland. I'll smash a golden eagle right in the mouth this Saturday. I'll punch him. I'll lead with right like you said, forehead up, smash them. Let's go. Just right off this hip. This one here is a little loose these days, so come off the right side. That's all I have.
You can come out and do our pregame speech with that. Here we go.
There we go. I don't know, man. I think I could bring I think, speaking of the hammer, I think I could get some boys to run through some cinder block walls. They don't even need a door on Saturday if I talk to them. Don't even need it.
Yep.
All right, Coach. Last,
Great.
we're gonna do some fun rapid fire questions here. Are you ready?
Sure.
This is where we're gonna get into some weird stuff here. All right. First thing, I ask a lot of people, and this is going to determine our friendship going forward. Does pineapple go on pizza?
No.
Yes. All right, we're good there. All right.
Pineapple is my favorite fruit, but pineapple does not go on pizza.
It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Most exciting play in football.
Oh boy. Pick six.
Pick six. Okay. Pick six is nice. I always like the safeties. Safeties, like you're imposing your will with the safety. It's embarrassing. It kind of gets in their head, I think. Okay. So who's going to win the Super Bowl this year?
Well, man, I'm hoping the Browns I see all your Browns gear behind you. I've been a Browns guy since I grew up. I was at the Drive game. I was there in the dog pound. I remember hitting somebody with a dog bone that was for the Denver Broncos, but I'm hoping the Browns get there and play well. I really like what Kevin Stefanski's done with the team and changing their culture and changing the things that they needed to do to win. It's going to be a really tough battle to get past the Mahomes of the world, but I think they have a chance. But I'm hopeful the Browns will.
All right, you're at a steakhouse. What slab of meat are you getting?
Porterhouse.
Ooh, you are the head coach, man. You went with
T-bone porterhouse. That's where you go.
Okay. All right. Favorite part of being a father that you've had with your kids?
Oh boy. Watching them grow. Seeing them make subtle mistakes, but be able to fix them. And watching them handle their teams of their own right now, because my son's playing football for the first time, watching him kind of grow in the football side of it and the contact side of it. That's been really exciting. Watching my daughter play volleyball and softball and ride horses and all the things she does as well. It's been really, this is the fun part. It really is. And I'm sure it doesn't get any worse as we go. We just lose some of those athletes as they grow and they get into their professions, but it's been really exciting that way.
All right. The best football player of all time.
Best football player of all time, I would have to say, is Jim Brown.
There we go.
I've had the opportunity to meet him. I've had the opportunity to talk to him. I've also had the opportunity to be around a lot of the Hall of Famers in Canton here. But Jim Brown is probably the guy that everybody growing up when I was a kid wanted to kind of be like, and he wasn't even in football anymore at that point. So I'd say Jim Brown.
All right. Last, we're going to keep it on food here. I do a lot of cooking on these channels. Favorite go-to food, favorite dish all time, anything's available. Last meal.
Last meal, man, that's a tough one because I have a lot of good things too. One thing I've kind of gotten into lately is cooking over an open fire.
Okay.
And so a good steak over an open fire with German chocolate cake.
German chocolate cake. You would. All right, that's it.
Hey, I got too much Fankhauser in me. I got German in me.
You definitely fit with the Fankhausers down there. I could see it. I don't think German cake lasts very long at the Fankhauser table at Thanksgiving, does it?
It doesn't last that long with me. I could eat a whole one by myself and put myself in a dither.
All right, Coach. Well, hey, thank you so much for taking the time on especially on prep week here. You got a big one this Saturday. You always have a home to come on here and talk about your team, and we thank you so much for just taking the time out of your busy schedule to hang out here with me here. And best of luck. And it has been an absolute pleasure getting to talk and meet with you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it, Tony. And anytime you want to bring me back on to bore your audience, I'll be glad to do it. So,
well, hey, you'll fit right in because I put people to sleep. It's a gift.
Well, right now, I don't know if I could wake anybody up with the way we're playing, but when we're going to sure try on Saturday.
We're going to come. I want to come there. I want to raise up the masses, and we're going to smack them right in the mouth.
Yep. Well, I believe our kids are ready. We had a good day of practice yesterday, and it's a short week, so we got to get ready to go.
All right, Coach. Well, best of luck, and I'm sure everything's going to work out just fine there for you. Just remember, you can always strap it on yourself if you get that low at the fullback spot.
I got maybe one play left in me.
Hey, just make it count. Fourth and goal, baby. All for the hey.
Right?
No,
Good
you're
ones.
going for two. You're going for two for the win. Ties don't
Yep,
count.
yep.
So we're going for the two. Strap it up.
Yep, for sure. Hey,
All
I
right,
appreciate
dudes and
it.
dudettes, thank you so much, Walsh Cavalier football coach John Fankhauser. All right, thank you.
Go Cavs.
No, go Cavs. All right.